Well, welcome to the 700 Club. For today's top stories, let's go over to the CBN News Desk.
Thanks, Gordon. President Trump is back home in Washington this morning after a holiday visit to members of our armed services in Iraq. The president thanked the troops for their service in the victory over ISIS there, and he defended his plan to remove troops from nearby Syria. CBN's White House correspondent Ben Kennedy reports.
Under the cover of darkness, President Trump and the First Lady surprised troops in Iraq.
We came to al-Assad to share our eternal gratitude for everything.
The commander-in-chief made the trip Christmas night. The 11-hour flight was shrouded in secrecy as he touched down for the first time in an active combat zone. It's there he praised the troops for their efforts in the fight against ISIS.
2 years ago, when I became president, they were a very dominant group. They were very dominant. Today, they're not so dominant anymore.
Trump revealed he wants U.S. troops to remain in Iraq despite his decision last week to withdraw all 2,000 soldiers in neighboring Syria, a move that led to the resignation of Defense Secretary James Mattis.
Our presence in Syria was not open-ended and was never intended to be permanent.
The president said the U.S. should no longer share the burdens of global defense alone.
So we're not the suckers of the world. We're no longer the suckers, folks. We're respected again as a nation.
There are also reports the president is considering pulling 7,000 troops from Afghanistan, about half the American presence there. The president also met with a U.S. ambassador to Iraq and with U.S. troops in Germany as he made his way home. Iraq's prime minister also accepted an invitation to visit the White House. Ben Kennedy, CBN News, Washington.
President Trump's decision to remove our troops from Syria has been criticized by many of his political allies in the U.S., but one of our closest friends in the region is also hoping America won't pull its support. CBN contributor Chuck Holton reports from Kurdistan.
U.S. troops may be headed home from Syria, but one important U.S. ally is still there fighting the remnants of ISIS. They're known as the Syrian Democratic Forces, which are predominantly made up of Kurdish fighters known as the Peshmerga. The Kurdish Peshmerga have been fighting ISIS since the beginning, and they've been some of America's staunchest allies in the region. But the latest move by the Trump administration has them worried, because they say there's still plenty of fighting left to do. Masroor Barzani was just nominated to become Kurdistan's prime minister.
I have no doubt that ISIS is going to be militarily defeated. It's just a matter of time. But it will not be eradicated because the ideology will stay. So, and the burden of fighting terrorism will mostly fall on the shoulders of intelligence and security services. That will make our jobs even more difficult because then instead of fighting enemy in one particular location, you have to fight them as ghosts running around all over. This is a world war, but we are in the front line. But unfortunately, really, we are not being supported to the degree that we need to.
The U.S. has often made it harder for the Peshmerga to fight ISIS because we've sometimes refused to sell them the military equipment they need to do so. This American Humvee now belongs to the Kurdish Peshmerga, but they didn't get it from the United States directly. They got it from ISIS. Now, ISIS got it when the Iraqi army left their equipment and ran away in Mosul back in 2014. So the Kurdish army says, we don't get to pay with dollars if we want to buy American equipment. We have to pay with blood, and that's what they mean. At over 30 million, the Kurdish are the largest people group on the planet without a country of their own. And for generations, they've dreamed of one day having a free Kurdistan. Hoshayer Zabari has been fighting for this dream his entire life, and he says a free Kurdistan is an idea whose time has come.
The issue of self-determination for Kurdistan has never been so high by the Kurdish people, that after all this suffering, after all these years, they need a place under the sun also like any other nation. And after ISIS, I think there will be a lot of thinking whether these communities or people can live together or be canned into those borders, or they should have their own free will to decide, you see, their future.
And with Iran, Syria, and Russia all vying for control in this region, Kurds think this might be a very good place for a permanent U.S. base.
We need Americans to remember that we are loyal friends and loyal allies. We share same principles and same values. We are together against international terrorism as long as it takes. And in this case, to eradicate terrorism and to fight terrorism, there are many ways that we have to work together.
But if the Americans pull out completely, the Kurds will keep fighting, because for them, this fight is about their homeland. Chuck Holton, CBN News, Erbil, Kurdistan.
Here at home, snow and rain are sweeping the Midwest and heading for the East Coast. From flood watches to blizzard conditions, the powerful winter storm delaying travel plans for millions of people. Airports from Dallas to Chicago are seeing delays. The system also dumping up to a foot of snow in the northern plains, wreaking havoc on the roads. The severe storms head east tomorrow, taking aim for the coast from Georgia to the northeast. Investors are hoping for another big day on the stock market after a huge pickup Wednesday, making up some ground after sharp losses in the days before Christmas. The market jumped more than 1,000 points, its biggest one-day point gain ever. A 5% increase overall, and technology, energy, and healthcare stocks led the way. We'd like to remind you it's the end of the year, and there's still time to give a tax-deductible gift by logging on to CBN.com.